All right, hi everyone. This is Aniket D'Souza, and welcome to another Tuesday talk session. And in today's session, what I wanted to talk to you about is something that has something that actually turned out to be something that it's already integrated inside me, and that's something that kind of pushed me to grow immensely over the past 10 years. But here's what I mean: in the past 2 to 3 months, I kind of figured out some of these things when I went to some of these master classes out there. And what I realized out of it is that they had actually codified my growth. So I've actually grown, and I was immediately able to kind of resonate with the kind of factors that were or the key things that are required in a person to actually grow much faster. And that's what we're going to cover today. It's basically how do you growth hack your career, and that's what I'm going to talk about today. It's primarily got to do with something called as the ask factor. So that's what I'm going to be talking about in today's video. All right, so if you like this particular video, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, and let's get started with this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take you through a deck that I have worked on. But before I actually get started with this particular deck, what I want to do is I want to take you through one of the videos. Let's see. I do not know how many of you have seen the movie called Sync, but you should be able to actually just Google it, just find that out. I'll put a link in the description as well with this particular scene where there are a couple of people who have come together for an audition. So they are audition or doing an audition for a singing competition, and this is basically cartoon characters. So you have animals who have basically come together, and they are all waiting for who's going to be selected to win the $10,000 prize. And that's what's being spoken of. And then what I really noticed about this particular scene is the way how the selection takes place, right? So everybody was singing. Everyone had their own way and own style of singing. I'm just gonna go back. Yeah. So everyone had their own style and own way of singing, and and different people sang, sorry, different animals sang different ways and different songs and stuff like that. But during the selection process, the particular approach of selecting the process was not always based on talent. So there was this particular scene where the koala bear, who's actually the judge of the singing competition, ended up selecting a gorilla. He selected a few pigs for the song and for the final finale, grand finale, and stuff like that. And there was this particular person where he selected a giraffe as well. And then he just announced saying that, okay, you are the winner, okay, you have been selected for the show. And the giraffe was like, okay, I can't hear you, can you repeat that? And then he said again, saying that, oh, you know what, you've been selected for the show. And then the giraffe again says, I can't really hear you properly. And then this person, the koala, says, saying that, I can't imagine doing something like this on a daily basis, right? Or he says that I cannot imagine doing this all through my life, trying to actually communicate with the person. Now, here, if you notice, the singing, as part of how the singing competition went, the talent existed, but it was the compatibility that was the problem, and that is the reason why the giraffe did not get selected. So that's what I wanted to tell you today. Today's talk is going to give you an understanding of how people select, how companies recruit people, how is a selection happening of candidates. For most of you, you've always been taught that having a good degree, having certificates, these are the selection criterias. But what I've realized over a period of time, and what does this particular factor comprise of, is three different things. They are not only related to knowledge. It's not always about going and securing degrees and it's securing diplomas and having certificates. It's also about the other things that are out there. So that's what I'm going to cover today. So as you can see, this is basically, it's called the ask factor. It's not something that's coined by me. It is something that existed. I just found it that resonates with my life and what's happened in my life in the past 10 years. And that's what I wanted to talk to you about. So that's what this is about. So let's do that, right? Sorry about that. Okay, so as you can see over here, I've basically created the ask factor. So what is this particular ask factor? So the ask factor is actually got to do with the competency factor. And when you talk about competency, it's not always going to be your competencies are not always based on knowledge. It's not always about knowledge. Okay, there are other elements involved. So I'm going to take you through what these elements are. So first one, yes, K is one of those key important things. You got to have knowledge, and without the knowledge, it's pointless. So you got to have knowledge in order to basically go to the next level, or you want to grow in your career. So you need to have that knowledge. You need to kind of have a base level of knowledge and understanding, so that you can talk to people, you can make people understand things like that. So you have those things with you. Sorry, it's not make people understand, but it's more like you have this thing inside you, that you know things, right? So that's knowledge. The second one is the skill. So skills can be about, like what I said, make people understand. Now you have the skill of passing your knowledge from you to another person. It's very important. Having knowledge by yourself and passing degrees and having certification doesn't really help if it's not going to be able, that if you're not able to materialize it, if you're not able to communicate with people, if you're not able to make sure that the knowledge that you have is actually being shared or it's being implemented, and that's where the skill part of it comes in. If you're not able to do that, then you don't really grow much faster. So it's primarily got to do with knowledge, skill, and then the third main element over here is attitude. Okay, and attitude is, just to tell you, it's the most difficult one of all of these three. It's very easy to get knowledge because you have a lot of places where you can, where there is professional education that's being offered. You've got schools, you've got colleges, you've got specialist courses, you've got online courses, you've got tons of stuff like that. You've got certification courses, you've got free courses that are out there, and knowledge is out there in abundance. The problem is everybody runs behind knowledge. They don't really look more towards honing on their skill. And skill cannot necessarily be that it's limited always towards, being able to talk properly and stuff like that. There are a lot of variations in skills as well. Being able to manage a tough situation, it's a skill. Being able to handle stress, that's a skill also. So these are different things that are out there. Being able to manage your people, being able to manage your reporting manager, being able to handle politics, right? So these are things that, these are skill sets that one acquires over a period of time. It's not something that's something that is there with you at immediately, right? So you don't graduate with it. Nobody teaches you these things. Having the skill of managing money, having the skill and understanding of how do you basically deploy money where, and having the skill of being able to handle large issues, like large financial issues. So that's a skill. So if you have a skill like that, it means that if you're able to figure out how to bring out a person from that problem, you are that's what your worth is, right? So these are skills, and then you have these attitudes, right? So I'm going to kind of get into it slightly deeper. So let's get into that. So when it comes to knowledge, you've got educational degrees, you've got social media management. So a lot of people do social media courses just to basically, kind of get an understanding and gain knowledge about how social media is managed. So mind you, when you basically do a social media management course or a digital marketing course, this is what you do. You're basically, what you're trying to do is you're gaining knowledge. You're not gaining anything else besides knowledge. Okay, so that's what it is. And then when you basically have, what are these? These are social media tools. So these are also knowledge gaining material. Courses completed. This is again a knowledge. Facts and figures about how many people are there in an X place and what an area, and all these general knowledge questions. That's all to do with knowledge, right? Skills, listening, being able to listen to someone. These are all skills. A lot of people have problems here. Comprehension, being able to understand someone, being able to understand briefs, being able to understand what the other person is trying to tell you, being able to understand what your reporting manager is telling you, and be able to execute it in a way that the reporting manager wants, right? So sometimes being able to manage stress. A lot of people break down. I've seen a lot of executives breaking down when it comes to handling stress. They're just not able to handle it at all, right? So uh, and a lot of people tell saying that, okay, I am able to manage stress and stuff like that, and there are limits for everything, right? And this becomes a key situation. It depends on how big the problem is and how well equipped are you to manage it. and what are your peers telling you, and how are they talking to you about. And that's where the attitude part of it comes in. I'm going to cover that as well. So let's look at this further. So managing stress, time management, being able to get your work done in a deadline, that's what time management is. And then you have managing challenges. So there are challenges that are coming to you, and most of the time, at least in the space that I've been in, which is digital, most of these challenges have never happened before. So even after 10 years, there are challenges that I face right now in digital, which has never happened before in the past 10 years at all of my career, right? So these are challenges that are like managing. This is what we call managing challenges, because some things like this have never happened before. Then you have communication issues, you have goal setting issues, being able to set goals and kind of target those. There is logic and reasoning. These are skills. This is not got to do anything with knowledge. It's about how you think. It's about the way you react to a certain situation that you're put in. These are all skills. Okay, and then you have interpersonal skills. You've got, okay, so interpersonal skills, that's where it ends. And now we come to the biggest part, which is the most difficult to change. So the easiest thing to do over here is knowledge. So everybody runs behind knowledge, thinking that once you basically have knowledge, your salary increases, and you will be kind of growing endlessly, and it's extremely fast to grow and stuff like that. The problem here is most people don't realize that knowledge is just one part of your competency factor. The other two parts are important. Some people talk about knowledge versus experience, which is better, and it's obviously experience, because experience comes in the skill side of it, which is a much difficult thing to kind of gain or grasp. But then there is something called as attitude, and attitude is level 3. You can call it like level 3. The level 1 is your knowledge, level 2 is your skills, and level 3 is your attitude. So what happens in attitude are can actually shape a person, can actually determine you, or kind of guide you to acquire knowledge, can guide you to kind of acquire skills. It's about how you deal with people and how you deal with situations, and what is your mindset. And ideally it's got to do everything with the mindset, how you think, right? So your integrity, values, self motivation, self confidence. Sometimes when you kind of handle stress, it's like it goes overbound, and at times it becomes extremely difficult. I remember this particular thing. I had a client of mine, and he ended up taking over. He kind of poached some of our employees. We had a team. We had a very small team. This was right in the beginning of when we started off. When I started off my company, and at that point of time, this particular client kind of poached our top, I can say, 4 people, right? And I did not know what to do. I just got to know that he had actually poached, and he was my top client. So obviously, I was down on revenue. I was down on amount of people who I had trained, and I was like, I did not really know what to think of and what to do. And at that point of time, I realized, and I was down, uh, and my wife told me, saying that um, did you watch the movie of Iron Man? And I was like, yes, I've watched it several times. And she told me, saying, what happens when Iron Man's basically his house gets destroyed, his suits get destroyed? What does he do? And I tell him that he's basically kind of with his head down, he's gone to some place destroyed, and then that kid kind of motivates him, and he suddenly realizes that what, even if things are destroyed, he can build things from scratch. And that's what I realized at that point of time. This was way back in 2015. And at that point of time, I realized, saying that, what happens if 4 people move out? What happens if a client has poached you? If you've basically built a company from scratch, you can always build it again. And with that kind of motivation, it was self motivation, yes, or it was peer motivation. Basically, what I realized is, it was about the situations that have occurred, and it was the people who are around you and how they talk, and that is what influences you. So that became the core for me to kind of take things to the next level. So when I basically took over and I started off again, in 2 months I was back to normal. I mean, I did not have to worry about the 4 people who left. I did not have to worry about the loss of having a major client leave us. But in 2 months, we were back in action, and we were doing well. So what I learned is from that experience is that you got to be self motivated, and you got to be surrounding yourself with people who are positive, who have the right attitude and who can basically take you to the next level as well. There is always going to be those people who will tell you saying that it's okay, don't worry, participation is more than enough, or participation is good. No one cares about participation these days. Okay, and that's the wrong thing that's being taught to the whole generation, saying that participation is good. No one cares about participation. Everybody cares about winning. And and because this particular thought of participation is good is being taught and is being, people have been given prizes, just like, just for participation you get a certificate or you get a prize, or just for participation or coming in fifth or sixth, and sometimes you have consolation prizes that have been given out, distributed. This is actually ruining the whole process of winning and being ruining the, and trust me, I'm a swimmer, I'm an athlete myself. Okay, so I can tell you with guarantees that this particular approach of participation is everything, and consolation prizes is everything, is kind of ruining the whole system. Because what happens when you hit the real world, which is when people move on from their college days into the real work life, they'll be like, this is what I thought it was, this is how I thought the life would be, and it's not exactly that. This is something else altogether, right? And it kind of crushes you to a large extent, because people or students believe that this is what they would do. In fact, when I basically graduated and moved on, when I basically did the graduation, I was thinking that I will be basically leading a lot of people. I was basically coming up with ideas, management, stuff like that. And then when I basically joined my first job, I was an executive, and at the end of it, I was doing everything at the bottom layer, right? So what I had thought what marketing is very different. But the way I basically took it forward was I wanted to learn everything at all levels, and that's how I basically grew up the ladder, right? Only thing is, I grew up much faster considering it was digital, but I also had all these three other elements. It was not always about knowledge, it was also about skills, and it was also about attitude, and it's also about the amount of the people around you who are going to basically take you to the next level. So that's what I wanted to cover today in today's video. I hope you liked it. I hope you learned something interesting, and I look forward to seeing you in our next Tuesday talk session. All right, thank you.